Welcome in to the Paul Kuharsky podcast. We're a little earlier today because the Titans are moving up and shortening up practice at this stage of the season, like most teams do. Not a big thing. I'm Paul Kuharsky. This is Paul Kuharsky podcast. I'm from paulkuharsky.com. You need a membership. Hop over there, $7.50 a month. Price of fancy cocktail here at Edleys Barbecue or anywhere. Fancy cup of coffee. I'm at Edleys in East Nashville. 5 Points, best barbecue you're going to find anywhere in Nashville. Also brought to you by Zen Sports, the best place to bet if you're in Tennessee. We're going to talk about Sneed, what looks like a Minnesota mismatch for the Titans this weekend. Explosive plays. Big concern that came to light for me this week about this team. Not that there aren't many of them, but based on something that Will Levis said, Jeffery Simmons getting better, Brian Callahan's honesty, and much, much more. Taking a lot of your questions. Feel free to stack them up here. Retweet, point your friends to YouTube, all of that. Happy to have you if you're listening later on Apple, Spotify, or iHeart. Edleys Barbecue, pre-order Thanksgiving meals now. 5 Points in East Nashville. That's where I am at 1004 Woodland Street. You can also go to Sylvan Park, Donaldson, Franklin, and Berry Farms, Franklin and the Factory. Gallatin, 12 South Nolansville. Best barbecue you're going to eat anywhere around. If you're a regular, make sure you're getting here frequently. If you're not, I don't know what you're doing, but you're not going to find better barbecue. I am officially addicted. Get the fried ribs, the burnt ends, or anything. You cannot go wrong eating here. As it says over here, what am I reading? You can't quite see it. Gather round for a smoking Thanksgiving. Let's start here, and I know population gets bigger as we go, but Sneed's a big topic of conversation. He's going to miss this week because we talked to him yesterday. He says he hasn't done any rehabilitation on the grass in terms of this quad bruise and strain. It's a bit of an odd conversation. He's a hard guy to read. I don't think there's a financial implication for him, though he's got $40,000 bonus per game active. So, he's lost $160,000. He'll lose another $40 this week. That bonus guy, it makes guys, obviously want to play. He's got a giant contract. It's not a huge amount of money, but it's incentive. I do not jump like a lot of people do to a conclusion that a guy is dogging it or doesn't want to play or anything like that. I have no reason to believe that about Sneed. I don't know him well. I've been around him, a reasonable amount since he's arrived in Nashville. They say he's got a quad issue and a strain. Quad strains have kept guys out in the past, certainly in Nashville, Tennessee. But I asked Denard Wilson, the defensive coordinator, today about any temptation to, give it up at this stage of a season, hurt for a team in this situation when you played for a winner as long as he did in Kansas City. Here's Denard Wilson's response to that, and let me note that his tone and energy picked up with this answer from what he was talking about previously. Denard Wilson on Sneed.
He is not a quitter. That's what I can tell you about the young man. He's trying to do everything he can to get out on the football field, and when he's healthy enough to get out on the football field, he'll play. There's no quitting him. He's a leader. He's a tough guy. He wants to be out there and fight with his teammates, and obviously right now he has an injury, and he's not ready to play. And every day he's in a meeting room. Every day he asks questions. He's helping the young guys. He's all dialed in. He's 100% in with this organization and his defense.
I take out at face value. Look, I have no reason not to believe people who have been honest with us I think say what you will about Brian Callahan and his regime, they've not lied, and they've certainly not lied big lies. So I don't think that that it's appropriate at this time to suggest that L'Jarius Sneed is mailing it in or doesn't want to play. And so I thought that's a good place to start here. It's obviously worth monitoring, um, but I think I have no reason to doubt that the guy wants to play. Look, his reputation has taken a hit this year. He didn't play well, and now people are questioning if he wants to play. And I think there's value on that. I don't think he's a guy just taking a check who isn't interested in getting back. Manny's asking me to put a grade on Brownlee so far this year. I'd say maybe B minus. I like the attitude and the intent, but he's given up some touchdowns. He commits too many penalties. I think Brownlee is a perfect kind of example of what this team needs more of. A young guy who, if you're playing a 2-7 season that's going nowhere, is learning, hopefully getting past some things that will pay dividends for him in the long run. I think he'll be a good player for this organization. I think he's got some really good moments. I think he's generally close to his man. It's a play I wrote about and what I wrote from Los Angeles, the touchdown that looked like Murray gave up against Quentin Johnston, who he shouldn't be matched up in against, but did wind up, chasing. Some debate about how much is his responsibility there. Brownlee said he's supposed to go to the hash and then look for anything coming back. Johnson certainly was coming back. It's something they hadn't seen. He said, well, you're not going to see everything in preparation for a game, so you have to be a football player and respond to something you haven't seen. I don't think he responded the correct way there. So it's a learning experience. He's got to learn to react to stuff he hasn't seen. But I think he's a good football player. I think he's going to be a good football player. I think Titans be a better football team now if Sneed and Awuzie, two guys that they kind of keyed this defense around, were on the field together. They're not going to cover for 5 seconds of play, but they're going to cover better, longer, to allow the pass rush to do some things. We knew it wasn't a pass rush strong team. We thought it was going to be a back-to-front team, which not too many successful teams are, but it was an unusual style, and that's how they were going to be. We liked the secondary talent less than the talent up front, and we knew up front they were going to have potentially three guys that could rush the passer in Landry, Simmons, and Sweat. I'll get back to Sweat in a second. The other rush spot was going to be open. Arden Key lately has been playing better. Well, Sweat's not getting to the quarterback at all. He's a run stuffer who's not impacting the pass rush. If you could get all that working with better coverage behind it, and have a better chance. They're a good yardage defense. They're not a big play defense. They don't take the ball away. They don't hit the quarterback. I like Brownlee. He should be the fourth quarterback on this team. Nathan says, need to get Kenneth Murray off the field on third downs. Well, they're generally taking a defensive lineman off in nickel. They're not going to dime so much, it doesn't feel like. And Jack Gibbons is a worse pass defender than Kenneth Murray. I'd like to see, somebody who's like, we were just talking about this in the press room when I left. I'd like to see somebody who's more like David Long, who was better and who just got cut by Valier, by the way. But they have somebody that's like David Long. His name's Jerome Baker, and he hasn't played yet. Look forward to talking to him this afternoon. But do I think that Dion did the Titans a favor by previewing the drama that will follow Shedeur? I mean, he's previewed it already. He's given us another preview. It's going to be a father-son deal, whether Dion's his coach or not. You're going to hear from Dion constantly about this guy. I just think it's a real danger. Even if Dion, and first off, he would love to be a package deal. Father, son, coach, quarterback. Yeah, that's going to go well. I don't think that's happening here. I think Brian Callahan's the coach here next year. Do you want Dion tweeting and talking to the media in Colorado or wherever he's a head coach next year, constantly chirping about how his son is used or not used, and the play calling and the coaching mechanics and backstabbing the coach by, I'm sure, having phone calls with his son that are going to tell him things opposite. I mean, it's like a little league dad. It's going to be like a little league dad. I just think it's a nightmare. Now, if the kid was an otherworldly talent, I'd say, well, maybe you got to take the risk there. But I think that his teammates conceivably a better player than he is. Hunter. I don't love the quarterbacks here. I'm not a huge college football guy. I'll leave that to people smarter than I am. I don't know if there's, you can't wait for an absolute home run, but you might be able to wait for something better than this draft class offers. Let's talk about the Vikings. A very good Vikings team that is coming to Nashville this weekend is going to cause the Titans some problems. Retweet, if you will. Let's tell more people that we're here, and it will make for a better conversation. Paul Kuharsky at paulkuharsky.com. I'm at Edleys. We're sponsored by Edleys and Zen Sports. Let's talk about the Vikings. Will Levis said of the Vikings defense, which is coordinated by Brian Flores, who is a top-flight defensive coach, they will get to anything from anything. And we're going to go into a long clip from Callahan here, which I think is worth listening to the entire thing, watching the entire thing, because he really details what Minnesota can do and will do on defense. There's good scope here for us to start our conversation about what the Vikings can do as you continue to stack up your comments here through Twitter and through YouTube. He starts Callahan with Jonathan Grenard, the excellent pass rusher, and goes from there. So starting with Jonathan Grenard, here's Brian Callahan on the Vikings.
Yes. One, good players. That's the first thing. Those guys do a really good job on defense and just the personnel in general. I think Jonathan Grenard is maybe the most underrated edge player in football right now. I mean, he's playing fantastic. I think he's really, really good. And they got a collection of veteran players that are smart. They can handle the scheme. They're really intelligent between Stephon Gilmore and Harrison Smith. I mean, it's a good group. Ivan Pace is really and jumps off the tape, particularly as a blitzer. He's a really good player. So good players is the starting point. And then you add the multiplicity. What I mean by that is they can play their base structure fronts against your 11 personnel. They can play base, and they can play nickel, and they sort of have this complexity that they like to present to you. And on top of that, they'll present 5 and 6 and 7 and 8 guys on the line of scrimmage, all in threatening positions. They'll bring all out pressure, or they'll present the same exact look and they will drop out and they'll play some version of 2 Tampa, some version of 3. So they do a really good job of marrying their pressure looks to their dropout looks. And so you have to have an answer for the max pressure, because if you don't do anything, you're going to get sacked. But then they also have the complement where whatever they're trying to get you to do, then they drop out and play coverage, and now you're in max protection against a full coverage unit. So you're lessening the amount of guys you can get out in the pattern because you're worried about the protection, and then you're also having to block those pressures when they come. So just a really smart scheme. Really, the multiplicity creates a complexity to it. You have to, in the run game, there's multiple fronts, multiple spots. Obviously, with Flores' time in New England, you see the shades of a lot of that in terms of their multiplicity of their fronts. But really well coached, really well designed scheme, and obviously have made life really, really hard for quarterbacks thus far this season.
Rhetorical question here entirely, but does this sound something like the Titans are equipped to handle? All this complexity, all of this potential. Hey, they're loading up and they're dropping out. Hey, they're dropping out, but they're coming. Leroy Watson with that. Ojukwu with that. This is trouble. Titans much better suited for a defense that says, here we are, this is what we do, try to stop us. And they're not good against that either, by the way. But this sounds like a nightmare scenario to me. Let me just run you through some numbers that are going to be at play here. The Vikings blitz almost 40% of the time. They've pressured the quarterback. Pro Football Reference adds up pressures of the quarterback, hurries, knockdowns, and sacks. From Pro Football Reference, the Vikings have pressured the quarterback an NFL high 110 times. Titans have less than half that, by the way, on their defense, 54 times. 110 times. The Titans have allowed a league high 53.6 pressure rate against the blitz. That's from Next Gen. So we're mixing stats here from Pro Football Reference and from Next Gen. That Next Gen stat I got via Easton Freeze. So mixing and matching some numbers. If I'm putting this puzzle together right, the Titans will be blitzed about 40% of the time. The Vikings will get home on that 40% of the time about half the time. So about 20% of the time, Titans are getting sacked on a Vikings blitz. So that's 1 out of 5 plays. And that's not to mention the Vikings pass rush, which is very successful, not blitz. So we've seen games here where the Titans have done better in terms of not getting a quarterback sack, which has been more about seeing lesser fronts, Patriots, than it has necessarily been about the Titans front, the offensive line playing substantially better. It's the same offensive line with some rotating pieces at right tackle. When they see good fronts, Chicago, Green Bay, the Jets, Chargers, now the Vikings, they've got huge trouble protecting the quarterback. And this is a very, very good front. That's also very, very complicated. Nick Holtz says the solution here is to hit answers early in the game. If they hit answers early in the game, the Vikings won't generate this kind of momentum and they won't be encouraged to keep coming. Well, that sounds great. But what if they don't have success early in the game? What if they do not have success early in the game against the Vikings' pressures? Well, the Vikings sure as hell are going to keep coming. Sure as hell keep bringing creative stuff. Well, they had mild success defending this. We'll bring that, blah, 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 on and on. Flores has no lack of stuff in his bank of pressures and variations and stuff. And the Titans talk a lot about stuff that they haven't seen before, unscouted stuff. The first mismatch here could be Callahan and Titans' offensive ability to prepare against Flores and his bag of tricks and the personnel he has to execute it with. So the Titans' answer this week to questions about this is we have to do our stuff well. I don't know what else they can say or do. They have to do their stuff well, but they can't install new stuff or be doing something different. And they're not going to roll out new personnel. I mean, Isaiah Prince could conceivably be in the mix at right tackle. I think it's the wrong game to start a practice squad guy who's been out of the league for a year in. Seems like a scary, scary game. Holtz said you don't look at the Vikings and say, we can expose them on this. Just have to be, somewhat patient and look to have success against them with some of the stuff that you do. Well, how much success have the Titans had against good defenses with some of the stuff that they do? They've run the ball with reasonable amount of success. Lately, they've been hitting Ridley. We'll talk a little bit more about Ridley in a little while. But I think this is looking for a Minnesota mismatch, Minnesota misery. Create all the alliteration you want. Hit me with your best alliterative Minnesota stuff. I think this may be as bad a matchup as the Titans have seen yet this season, and they've seen some bad ones. I don't like what's to come here. We'll dive into some more of your questions before we get back into my notes. Nathan said, yeah, he's saying Baker for Murray on third down. I'm saying if there are two inside linebackers on the field on third down, I'd take Gibbons off first. Ryan Fick thinks I didn't get the joke on Robbie and Rex Road where they captured bad audio of me and took it out of context. I certainly did. Will we see Cedric Gray anytime this year? I mean, I don't think he's the answer at linebacker. Missed so much of camp and didn't play well there. I think you see him on special teams, son. Text didn't work. It's great that I could spend some money on that text and not have it work. Apparently the link was bad. I apologize if that's the case. Looks like plenty of you have found me. I am grateful that you are here. SO Crazy says the solution would be Pollard and Spears need to have 4 or 5 catches apiece. Levis needs to get rid of it. That is certainly part of the solution. Certainly part of the solution. I think the Vikings be good at rallying to the ball and preventing that, but I certainly like that idea. It's certainly a way to help evade an effective pass rush. And everybody's been calling for more of Spears. That's certainly a way they could get more of Spears. I'm not hell-bent on Spears getting more touches. I would be perfectly happy with Pollard getting 22 carries. But you can incorporate Spears certainly more into the passing game and into the screen game, and I'd be fine with that. So let's do that. Michael Spain says, it seems like a blowout, barring a bunch of turnovers by Darnold again, but the Titans don't force turnovers at all. That's him, not me. So this is going to be a bloodbath. I think so. It could be a preview of next year's quarterback if the Titans go kind of a bridge veteran direction. And I think there's a reasonable percentage scenario where the Titans bring in a veteran to go with Will Levis, let them fight it out. I think if Darnold's coming here, it'd certainly be the starter. And there are worst case scenarios. I know Darnold has dropped off, but he was also very good early. And I think Darnold gets you to at least, a level of quarterback play that if you're running the football well and he can play efficient football, which he has played in a lot of games this season, and you play good defense, if they could get this defense to do what it's done well and add in some pass pressure with better play from the Titans people, plus, edge rushing addition and second year in Denard Wilson's system and all of that, then I think, defense could be better next year. This could be a defense-based, run-heavy, efficiently quarterbacked Tennessee Titans team. Where have we ever seen one of those before? And I think somebody like Sam Darnold could operate in such a team. Under the bridge strategy, I mean, we've been talking. The other thing, and I know people hate to hear this, but if you look at guys like Darnold, who's won games, I know he's throwing a lot of interceptions. They're winning games with Sam Darnold. You look at Baker Mayfield, you look at Geno Smith. There is going to be another pool of those quarterbacks. I know who those quarterbacks will come from. I don't know who they will be. Zach Wilson, Trey Lance, Mac Jones. There may be 2 other guys, 5 guys like that who've been sitting somewhere. You look at Zach Wilson. I don't know if it's going to be Zach Wilson, right? I did see Zach Wilson look very good against the Titans when the Jets beat the Titans up there last year or the year before. Now, Zach Wilson's sat up over in Denver, learning from Sean Payton, a pretty good offensive coach. Is there potential that guy gets himself into a good situation next year and does well? Yes. Yeah. We didn't see Geno Smith coming. We didn't see Baker coming. We didn't see Flacco for the degree that he's been good coming. We didn't see Darnold coming. Darnold went to San Francisco, and the 49ers loved him behind Purdy. So there is a tier of quarterback like that. That could be, somewhere that the Titans wound up. Do I feel awkward sitting at a table solo talking to my computer? No. It's my sponsor. They want me here. I'm telling you about Edleys while I'm here, and it's a great deal for everyone. I do feel awkward that I don't get to eat because the food is delicious and I'm very hungry. And when I'm done, I pack all this stuff up, run back to the Titans facility, and go into the locker. Michael Spain says Darnold had 241 yards passing with 3 picks last week. Did the Vikings win or lose last week? And where are the Vikings in the standings? Because if I'm not mistaken, the Vikings are in pretty good position in the NFC. I'm opening up my app and I'm looking, and the Vikings are 7-2. So whoever's quarterbacking the Vikings, I'm fine. Because the guy, and wins are not a quarterback stat, but the quarterback has helped them be 7-2. They have helped the quarterback be 7-2. They won with 0 touchdowns and 3 picks, Nathan says. What are the odds the Titans could win with 0 touchdowns and 3 picks? 0. They won a very ugly game, 12-7 over the Jaguars. The Titans are going to play the Jaguars twice. My guess is they will not sweep them. My guess is they will not sweep them. Keep the questions coming. Let's get in a little bit here. Let me tell you a little bit about Zen Sports. Zen Sports has no danger first wager bonus. Here's what you do. You go over there, you sign up with TN Paul, with code TN Paul. So go get the app, sign up using TN Paul. Then you bet as little as $10. You can get a free membership to paulkuharsky.com. It's a pretty sweet deal right there. Free year. That's $81 value. But then if you win the bet, you're set. You should bet more than $10 for your first bet. You can bet up to $1,000 on your first bet. If you lose it, you get reimbursed. If you win it, you're bankrolling your account, and you got a nice bit of money there to make your bets with. Do I have picks? Yes, I have picks. I think Minnesota. I don't bet on the Titans ever, but I think Minnesota's winning in Nashville by more than 5.5 points. I don't see how that's not happening. I don't like Kansas City getting points, but Buffalo as home dogs giving 2.5. I think Buffalo's winning that game by more than a field goal. I think Kansas City, has gotten lucky in some of these games, and it's time to be over. And JT Runke, who I've failed to mention to this point, doing extraordinary work helping me out with production on these podcasts. I ask him for picks. Sometimes he's reclusive. We know he's reclusive in terms of showing his face on these podcasts, but he gave us a pick last week, and he's giving us a pick this week. He likes Pittsburgh getting 3 at home against Baltimore. I cannot co-sign this. I am a Steelers non-believer. I'm not sure why exactly, because they are proving themselves, but I can't shake it. And I think the Ravens will win that and by more than 3. Check out Zen Sports. They've been really good to me. Audrey Collins, who has become a real regular here, and I'm enjoying getting to know her. She said she's signing up for Zen Sports right now. I appreciate that. You know how you can top that off, Audrey? By having dinner at Edleys tonight. Zen Sports, check them out. Gambling problem, call 1-800-889-9789. Terms and conditions apply. Must be 21 and over in Tennessee to bet. Those picks again, I've got Minnesota by covering 5.5 in Nashville. Buffalo as home dogs, minus 2.5 against the Chiefs. That's a hell of a game this weekend. And JT likes Pittsburgh getting 3 against Baltimore. 3 high-quality picks for you. Let's talk about explosive plays for a second here. Brian Callahan, the Titans have 20 pass plays of 20 yards or more. That is 27th in the NFL. They average 2.2 of those a game. The Ravens have 35 of these plays, 15 more than the Titans. They may have played one more game than the Titans. 3.5 a game for the Ravens. The one thing I'm missing, JT, jump in here if I'm wrong. The Titans don't seem to ever have these crossing routes where a guy ends up with the ball with the potential to be physical with the first defender and run away from people. The A.J. Brown play. I've seen Ridley do that like once or twice. It's maybe not tailored for NWI, though NWI doesn't have the speed to maybe finish that into the end zone, but he certainly has the physicality to fight the first guy and get some additional yards. I just don't feel like they use that play. And that to me is a yak play. That to me is a pass play that can get you 15 yards, if not 20, if not over 20. I miss that play. Here's Brian Callahan on the idea of not forcing it to find these explosive plays, but still seeking the big plays kind of in the flow of the game. JT's going to give us this clip of Brian Callahan on explosive plays.
I mean, we definitely need, some explosive plays, but the thing that I always caution quarterbacks in particular is that you don't want to go hunting. So you don't want to go hunt explosive plays. You got to take them when they come. We call plays that have chances, and sometimes they get covered, and we just need to make sure we're being smart with the football. But the ones that you do get a chance, you got to hit. The one that we hit to Calvin, for example. Those are the ones that help you. And then explosives come in different ways, too. You have to be able to catch and run. Sometimes those are where a lot of explosives come from. So when we get in space, we have to be able to create something more than what the catch would allow for the moment. They got to break a tackle and get 10 more yards. Those are how other explosives get created. There's an element of explosiveness that we need to keep finding ways to use and get more of. But we also have to just execute some of the normal stuff in the red zone better than we have as well.
Look, they're not good at driving the field long because they get a penalty. And as soon as they get a penalty, as soon as they're behind the sticks, they kind of surrender to drive. And when they surrender to drive, it might be a short field coming for the defense. I have to correct myself here. Andrew points out the Bills are not home dogs. They're giving the points. I misspoke there. I still the Bills giving 2.5. I still like I like that pick. Nathan agrees. He wants more dig routes from Ridley. John going back asking, when do we have to sound the alarm on Awuzie and Sneed? I mean, look, it's been a disaster, Awuzie and Sneed, as kind of the big duo of acquisitions. The positional transformation that was going to come with these two guys just hasn't happened. They haven't been on the field. But it's injuries. I mean, Sneed hasn't played well when he's been out there, but it's been injuries. Sneed deserves a chance to get back on the field and play himself out of it. And Awuzie deserves a chance to get out on the field and show what he's got. And so we're going to wait and see that. Nathan wants to see more, power runs with Levis. I don't know the have to be quote unquote power runs. I think they ran Levis pretty smartly last week. I'm a little afraid of him getting hurt, but I don't think he can play. Scared of that. And I think he's run the ball well. Run him kind of the way the Chargers ran Justin Herbert last week. And I think that is a smart, efficient brand of quarterback running that mixes in well with the rest of what you're doing, and is stuff that can help keep you out of bad downs and distances. And I think that is helpful stuff and can help him. Here's more on the Vikings. Michael, who's got a handle on that game, said the Vikings completely dominated the Jags. Time of possession was 42 minutes to 17 minutes. Darnold threw 3 interceptions to keep it close. Oh, for the Titans to be able to throw 3 interceptions to keep a game close. Who wouldn't love to see a game like that? Leon is taking care of me with my Diet Coke with lemon. Always tempting me with the fried rubbed ribs. Yeah, well, that's so crazy. Says, do I think if you were in the playoffs, Sneed would play? Because you sure do. And Cheeto was burnt toast in Cincinnati and was just better than what we had. Well, what's wrong with signing a guy that's better than what you had? Isn't that how you get better? Well, we've got a guy that's here, and this guy's here. But Cincinnati had guys that were there. Well, shouldn't you get here? I'm holding my hands above my hands. Yeah. I mean, we don't know what Cheeto is in this system yet. So we shouldn't cast any judgment on Cheeto. The Titans don't have a playoff game today, and I don't think that Sneed would be playing in it. He's not rehabilitating on grass right now. Are you insinuating that he'd be rehabilitating on grass if there was a playoff game this weekend? I mean, if he can't rehabilitate, he can't rehabilitate. I'm not comfortable. I'm not as comfortable as you guys of accusing a guy of dogging it. A guy that has a reputation of playing through a knee injury that required a lot of maintenance, and a guy that's been an elite player. Why would he not want to play? I don't. Nathan says football fans love conspiracy theories. You don't understand how he could be hurt, and therefore you've got to create a rationale for it. I mean, it's something worth monitoring for sure. But I just don't think that you can say that. I don't think it's fair, and I don't know why you want to be unfair to a guy. And I think these guys deserve us to be fair to them. McCreary plays in different positions. So John's saying McCreary's been better than both, so not better than what we have. Well, they signed these guys to be signed one, traded for another to be outside corners. McCreary plays inside, which is pretty much considered a different position. And I like McCreary a lot as the Titans nickelback. But the fact that he's played better nickelback than either of these guys have played outside, and again, he's played better than Sneed's played outside. We haven't – Wooz has played so little we can't judge him. But I don't think that's particularly relevant. Give a retweet here live, and wherever you're watching or listening, please like, subscribe, give a thumbs up on YouTube, rate, review, do all of those things that are helpful to the cause. Sign up at Zen Sports, eat at Edleys. All of these things are big. Jeremy Martin, I knew this question would come. Do I think the Titans would entertain bringing back David Long Jr. since he got cut by the Dolphins? You'd love to see him take Gibbons' spot, but if he still has soft tissue injuries constantly happening, then you're not interested. Obviously, you're not Rand. No, you're not Rand because you're actually in here having a dialogue with someone. Look, you know nothing about how David Long's done down there. I don't either. But they just cut him. So how good could he be right now? The only reason you're interested in him is because once upon a time he was good here, and that was a long time ago. So the odds that David Long Jr. could help the Titans are very small. They have a guy who's a lot like David Long Jr. in Jerome Baker sitting in the locker room. So I think we should focus on why don't they play Jerome Baker instead of why don't they look at David Long. That would make sense to me. TK says, without knowing the guy, I do find it a tad interesting that at the Chiefs win Super Bowl on the line, played through all this. He played through a knee injury that we don't know the details of, and he now has a quad injury that we don't know the details of. So you're just going to automatically equate the knee injury that he played through to the quad injury that he's not playing through. How can you do that? Are you a medical person? And have you looked at the MRI? And would you know what the MRI meant if you looked at it? And would you know what the knee stuff meant if you looked at it? I mean, it's very, very simple what you're doing there. You realize that, don't you? So you say, well, he played through the knee injury that he played through all of last year. So obviously that was an injury that he could play through. And he's not playing through this quad injury. So, I mean, I'm just applying basic logic. The knee injury was something he could play through. And the quad injury is something he's unable to play through. Why would you presume that they're equal injuries? Like, what sense does that make? I'll answer because it was rhetorical. That makes no sense. John F. applies some logic here and says T. Higgins seems to have a lingering quad injury too. Just seems to be a frustrating one. That's a good point. And we don't know about the degree of Higgins's and the degree of Sneed's. Every injury is its own thing. John raises a good point. Not blaming the players, but Titans fans have PTSD from the organization drafting and acquiring hurt players. That's fine, and that's understandable. But Sneed's knee has nothing to do with Sneed's quad. Like, and I can understand, who's had the hip, who had the hip throughout training camp that seemed related to a past injury. I can't remember. And those seemed maybe related. Maybe it was Sneed that had some hip stuff that seemed related to his Sneed. But this quad happened as an event. He took a helmet to the quad, and it created a contusion and a strain. I mean, that's an event. He had an injury event. Yes, Adams with the hip. Thank you, Zombie Creed. So Adams, who had a really bad knee injury that cost him a year, then throughout training camp had a hip. Well, was the hip a result of the knee or was it a separate incident? We never really got an answer on that. But conceivably, the hip was a thing related to the knee, which would be a norm. All right, so you got an injury and you brought in a guy with this long-time knee thing, and well, then you have this hip thing. If it's connected to the knee, you say, well, of course, you brought in a guy with a knee thing that was so bad, inevitably it was going to result in some additional stuff. Or you look at Sneed and say, well, he had a knee thing and he's managed a knee thing, but separately of the knee thing, he got hit in the thigh and there's a thigh injury that's separate. Ed asks, do we know how involved, Ed, I appreciate seeing you. I know you're around for all of these. Do we know how involved Callahan has been in his previous stop with drafting quarterbacks, maybe Burrow? I mean, I think Cincinnati was, unanimous on Burrow, and anybody who had the top spot in that class was going to be unanimous on Burrow. If they're drafting a quarterback here, he's certainly going to have a hand in it. Let's see what else we've got here. I've got a few other things I wanted to share. Clock is ticking on us. Under the surface, my big concern that came out this week. So Callahan talked about seeing improvements, meaningful stuff under the surface that's not resulting in win and losses. I think we've done things. We're getting better sort of under the surface, he said. And I know everyone judges on wins and losses, but there are a lot of things that are really positive for me as a coach. He likes the way they're approaching their work and the intensity which they're approaching it and what it's like inside the building, inside headquarters. He said all of those things are what he would hope they would be. Then Levis, when I took him this and asked him about those things, this is what concerns me, what Levis said. And I wrote a piece about this. You should be reading it at paulkuharsky.com. He said, Levis, at this point, we've got a whole lot of concepts that we believe are important for this system for us to be able to go out there and succeed on Sundays. We're just now getting to the point where we're kind of checking the boxes on all those different concepts. Those few weeks when I wasn't here, I was able to see the progress of the guys in all the rooms kind of getting more comfortable, getting in and out of the huddle with a little more confidence, feeling good about the game plans. This concerns me greatly. We're just now getting to the point where we're kind of checking the boxes on all these different concepts. We're getting more comfortable, getting in and out of the huddle with a little more confidence, feeling good about the game plan. We're going into week 11. All right. And this transition to this offense, somebody asked early, I think Ed Henry, who's in here, maybe asked me, how sophisticated is this offense? How long should it take? And this was maybe week 4. And I asked Callahan, how sophisticated is this offense? And he said, middle of the pack sophisticated. Is not a thing that should be holding us back at this time, the learning of this offense. So for Levis to be saying these things at this stage is not good. They should be plenty comfortable with this stuff by now. They shouldn't be checking boxes of comfortability on November 13th when he said this. That concerns me. I think that Callahan, I haven't had a chance to circle back to him on this, but they got to have stuff down by now. They're going to have stuff down by now. Not be saying, yeah, well, we're gathering reps at this. We're getting better at it because we're playing. I mean, that's the case for Leroy Watson at right tackle, who's probably being maxed out by Bill Callahan, quite frankly. He's just not that good. But this offense is supposed to have good enough personnel, and it has. Tony Pollard, pretty good player. Calvin Ridley has settled in now, is a pretty good player. The left side of the line, pretty good. Levis just played a pretty clean game. They should have this shit down. So I'm concerned by those comments. That's taken too long. It's half a season. Half a season. Let's go. Calvin Ridley's expectation last 3 weeks been pretty damn good. Last 3 weeks, he's been the second best receiver in the league, even with Justin Jefferson. Ridley and Jefferson both have 15 catches for 300 yards. Ridley's got 2 touchdowns there. Justin Jefferson, none. Only guy that's been better, Jamar Chase in Cincinnati. 27 catches, 360 yards, 61 yards, 4 touchdowns. First read, they've been better getting the ball to Ridley, but Nick Holt says, well, sometimes they take it away. Sometimes you get unscouted looks. Here's Ridley talking about is under the surface better and his rhythm with Levis, which it's great that Levis picked up where Rudolph left off. That was a big development for this team. But Ridley's got, a degree of dissatisfaction based on the results, as he should.
Yeah, it would have been better if we won the game. Yeah, we win the game, that's what we come here to do, win the games.
Yep. But is there something to be said for bettering chemistry, do you feel like?
Yeah, I mean, pretty good, pretty decent, but we got to be great. We got to win the game. Got to be really good.
Whispering John Glennon making an appearance and not whispering. Very impressive by him. Let's hop around. Jeffery Simmons playing better. Wasn't as good in this game against LA as he was against Detroit and New England, but I thought he was still solid, impactful, had the strip sack that should have been a fumble. that the officials didn't do well. I think you can always tell how Jeff feels he played based on his mood. He was in a pretty good mood in his press session on Wednesday again. It's one of the biggest tells in the locker room. I asked him how he feels about kind of this 3-game stretch, kind of reiterated what he said a week before, but you gauge him. Here's Jeff Simmons.
It's still like when he first came in, what he believed in, and our expectations for the team. Our record shows 1-6, but that's not who we are. It's who we are because that's the record. But at the end of the day, especially the work we put in the camp, the type of
Let's cut that, JT. We got the wrong video there. That's my fault. Sorry. He was talking again about not getting slid to. And, when they can't do it, he wants to do stuff against double teams. He can sometimes, but when he doesn't get slid to, really has an advantage. I don't know. I mean, that's teams staying true to what they do offensive line-wise, but I don't know why you wouldn't put attention on Jeffery Simmons no matter what, especially now with T'Vondre Sweat clearly not making a difference in the pass rush game. So I'm not scared of him at all. Now, I know you're dying to hear from Colt Anderson, right? Colt Anderson today, for the first time of all of his press conferences, he came in, he filibustered a little bit. Figured, hey, I can make a statement here at the beginning to eat up some of my time. And if I eat up some of my time, there'll be fewer difficult questions. And if there are fewer difficult questions, I can get out of here more unscathed, right? So he came in and he said, not celebrating that we were better, but we were better. Not celebrating that we met the standard, but, punt coverage was good. We met the standard. So I called him on it. I said, you're not celebrating the standard, but you just spent a few minutes celebrating the standard. Here's his typically awkward reaction.
So you're not going to celebrate what you did, and that's the standard, but you're going to open with a few minutes celebrating playing to the standard.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a little confused by that.
No, that's a great
this
point.
Is what they're expected to do.
Yeah.
But you're going to talk to us about them finally having done what they're expected to do.
Yeah, I'm not by any means celebrating. I'm talking about it, mentioning it. Stoney's. I continue to tell you guys every week he's getting better, and it was nice to see him, hit the balls that we know he's capable of hitting. Our gunners have done a great job in practice, just playing with speed, and for that to show up and reap the benefits of that is amazing. So this is just the nature of this business. You can't celebrate, what you did. It's all about what you're about to do, and we got a great opportunity to play a really good football team and go out and build on off of what we did last week and take that momentum into this week.
Doesn't Julius falling down and taking down teammates like bowling pins offset a lot of that?
Yeah. So we had a lot of momentum. I mean, the game's all about momentum, and certainly when he goes in, I think we just scored or kicked a field goal there, and we're relying on those 10 guys to go make that play. And so Julius, is in practice, he's done a great job in practice, making that play. It's the same look we work, and so the coaching point for him, he's just got to get vertical and set that edge.
That guy is just officially over his head. I mean, maybe I'm nitpicking now, but I was frustrated weekly by Ackerman, and Ackerman's team was better than Ackerman's special teams were shockingly better than Anderson's teams. And he'll be fired the Monday after the season's over. If he's not, then you should get out your pitchforks and your torches, because look, and I'm disappointed in Callahan here too. So if Julius Woods didn't fall down and knock 3 guys down, we would have covered the 56-yard touchdown. Well, don't fall down. I mean, are they not coaching that? Oh, well, a guy fell down and blew out a bunch of guys. It's just unfortunate. I mean, are we hearing that anywhere else? Are we hearing that kind of explanation? I mean, it's just nonsense. It's a big rule I have. It comes with slippery turf and all of that stuff. I wrote a story about it a while back when they still had the bad natural turf at Nissan Stadium. It's a classic story in Sports Illustrated. It's a look back at Raymond Barry and Johnny Unitas in the greatest game ever played at Giant Stadium. And Raymond Barry, the care he took choosing what he was going to wear on his feet on the icy field, and the precision with which he knew where he had to really take care with his steps on the field based on the shadows and the ice and the sun. And you know what he didn't do in that game when he was an excellent Hall of Fame performer? He didn't fall down. Now, I don't know what happened to Julius Wood that he fell down, but I'd tell the guy not to fall down over here on the bench while I got somebody that wouldn't fall down over here. It's just ridiculous. You should demand more. When you go to your PSL meeting, say, yeah, if I take this seat, am I going to watch guys fall down? It's just bullshit. Sam, how are you? Shortened offseason having impacts on new coaches? I mean, offseason's been this short for some time now. And we've seen a lot of first-year coaches do quite well. So would it be better for those coaches, for all coaches, if it was long? Yeah. Would it have a bigger bearing on offensive linemen? For sure. But it's an even playing field. And there are plenty of teams playing a lot better than the Tennessee Titans. So I can't put it on the list of things that are holding this team back when everybody else is dealing with the same thing. I mean, I think it's holding football back. And I think the players, I don't think the players particularly care about what the consequences are of the things that they gain in collective bargaining agreements where they can win very little. They're probably going to win reporters out of the locker room in the next collective bargaining agreement, and they'll parade that as some significant victory, while the league gets an 18th game out of them, and they get further beat up, and they'll act like there were equal concessions on both sides. Yeah, that's equal. Hey, it's been great that you've been here. This is as good a crowd as we've ever had live, so I appreciate that. Tell your friends, pass the word, subscribe. Become a member to paulkuharsky.com, and you'll be on our private Facebook board. You'll be able to call into these podcasts, leave a voicemail on a Thursday, on a Sunday to be heard from the press box. You read Mike Herndon and Blake Bedingfield as well as me on the site. I'll come meet you at Edleys. I've got an open spot in the All-22. If anybody's interested in that, it'd be a hell of a start for you if you got in touch with me and joined right now, past the interview process, because we're having a giant event on Monday. That is something that if you're a big-time football fan, big-time Titans fan, you wouldn't want to miss. So email me at paulkuharsky@gmail.com if you're interested in that. pkuharsky@gmail.com if you're interested in that. Bet at the Zone. Join using TN Paul. Eat at Edleys. Become a member of paulkuharsky.com. Don't block the box, and be sure to lock your locks. Great to be with you, everybody. I appreciate you. Have a great weekend.